Hello, everyone. My name is Rose, and my fellow group members are Christy, Jess, Matthew, and Zoe. We are all MPH candidates in the Department of Epidemiology, and today I will be talking about our final project for Data Science 1, COVID and city bike usage. As students of epidemiology, the effects of the COVID-19 lockdown were of interest to us, and as many of us live in New York, the impact the pandemic had on how New Yorkers moved within the city and utilized various transportation options was another point of interest. We thought it would be worthwhile to create some interesting and understandable graphs exploring how the usage of city bikes and MTA public transit overall changed during and after the 2020 pandemic lockdown. Broadly speaking, the main takeaways from our exploration of the data were that every service experienced a drop in ridership in March 2020 when compared to 2019 levels, coinciding with the start of lockdown. As well as that, following the initial in usage, city bike ridership recovered and in many cases exceeded its 2019 levels, while other forms of transit stayed below the usage levels seen in 2019. We used publicly available data from CitiBike on ridership and from the New York Metropolitan Transportation Authority on turnstile and utilization changes. We used R and the tidyverse package to import and clean the data. We then conducted exploratory data analysis with the aim to visualize descriptive statistics of the demographic and spatial patterns. We wanted to make the final deliverable something that would be fun and interesting to look at and click through, so we placed a large emphasis on interactive and animated visualizations. The aim here was to make something that anyone with any background could look at and understand. Continuing our theme of interaction, we developed two Shiny apps, one to visualize subway ridership changes from 2019 to 2020, as well as another that gave common starting points and destinations of city bike rides within Manhattan, along with demographic information related to those stations. We compiled all the data and code in HTML files and published the project as a website using GitHub. On the website, we also included a final report that goes into more detail on our methods as well as all of our code.
I will now walk you through one of our Shiny apps. This is an example of our subway ridership Shiny app looking at percent change in ridership from 2019 to 2020. As we can see, there's a map of New York City with the red lines indicating the subway lines and the dots indicating the subway stations. Yellow and green dots indicate high ridership, while purple and blue dots indicate low ridership. The user can input a date, which boroughs they'd like to look at, and if they want exit turnstile data or entry. As we can see, pre-pandemic, ridership for each station was high. And then if we go to March and April, we see ridership plummets.
Throughout the course of our project, we encountered several challenges that prevented us from completing our analyses as originally intended. Firstly, we were interested in exploring the demographics of individuals using city bikes, and specifically whether healthcare professionals were using them at greater rates during the pandemic compared to before the pandemic, and whether their rides accounted for a greater percentage of overall rides compared to non-healthcare workers. However, CitiBike does not offer data at this level of granularity, so we could not pursue this. Secondly, we want to examine usage of CitiBike stations near hospitals and temporary treatment centers to understand whether these areas underwent increases in ridership during the pandemic. However, we could not quite determine where folks ending rides near hospitals were planning to go due to how stations are spread out in the city. So to deal with this, we instead added hospitals as major points of interest to our analyses and shifted our focus to looking at travel patterns overall.
From this project, we noted a few key points and ideas that we feel could have a broader impact. First, we feel that there is insight from this project related to disaster preparedness. Our project provides key insights about how New York City residents changed behavior in response to the COVID-19 lockdown. Our conclusions about transportation, we feel, can help inform future disaster preparedness, transportation planning, and policymaking to best serve the travel needs of local commuters. Additionally, we believe our work really captures the resiliency of New York City residents and their determination to stay connected at a time that this was incredibly difficult. Although city bike ridership plummeted at the start of the pandemic, it bounced back rather quickly, illustrating the strength and flexibility of New Yorkers. And that brings me to our final point, where in a city of 9 million people, it's critical to have diverse and affordable transportation options to keep the city functioning even at times of immense difficulty. We feel that this project has illustrated the utility of programs like CitiBike and that this could be considered in other cities where public transit options are limited. And with that, thank you for your time and have a good day.